So with Skinfreak being released a couple weeks ago, I thought it was about time we dive deeper and see what's going on out of bounds. This game is quite long, so there are a lot of things I wanted to look at, so what better than to do it now? Is there really anything else to say? We out! So of course, the very first thing that we are going to look at is the main menu screen. What's cool about this game is that the main menu is actually a separate level in which we are able to move around in, similar to Ding Dong Dead, another game made by the same developer. We're restricted to only the elevator of course, but this is pretty unique compared to other puppy combo games. Now to be honest, there's not anything else really to go over here, apart from the load game text and this exit sign, so let's move on to the prologue. The game starts here at this garage, where our character works as a taxi driver and is doing a few jobs deep into the night. Upon grabbing our keys to start our shift, we are greeted by our boss Jerry, who thought it would be a good idea to attempt to jump scare us not even 1 minute into the gameplay. Thankfully, I learned how to mess with animations and the models a while back, so I was able to make him do some wacky things. For some reason, Jerry has this really aggressive and menacing walk. I'm not sure what this would be used for, but I'm glad we didn't get to see it in game. Yeah guys, I don't even know what the f is going on. Let's move on. So of course, with all barrier breaches, the first thing I like to do is completely light up the map. This in itself sometimes changes the way games feel entirely, especially horror games, where the dark is such an important element. Obviously, for a video like this where our goal is to explore and discover hidden mechanics, visual clarity is of the utmost importance to me. So let's take our newly lit map and go through some of the more important hotspots, because as you can see, this is quite a large level. Some of the first things you may notice are these floating buildings out in the void that are used to create the illusion of a filled city. Next, I decided to take a look at this planet, which I believe to be Mars, only to find out that it was just a part of the skybox. Bruh. I mean, look at this, guys. You can't tell me this doesn't look 3D. Like, it literally looks 3D. It looks like it's popping out. Right beside that, we have the stars, with some even being lit up with a blue light. Although you rarely are ever looking at the sky in this game, it's small details like this that help add to the atmosphere. Moving on to the ground, the first place I decided to look at is this small playground with this vigil. It's kind of hard to see from inside the taxi, but these are actually posters for missing people. What makes this even more heartbreaking is the fact that there are stuffed animals propped up against the vigil, implying that the victims were very young in age. Given the context of this game, we can only assume that this was the work of the Skinfreak, making his character even more darker than I had thought previously. I attempted to find similar one-off spots, but I could only find construction roadwork, electrical substations, rundown factories, this sniper killer-esque water tower, this really shady tunnel, and even shadier steps leading down, which we will explore in just a bit, and the many billboards that populate the city. So the first customer that we pick up is this drunk guy stumbling outside of a local bar. Now, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you do, do not end up like this guy. He's been sipping on this off-brand bootleg ass beer called Carpa, and he's tweaking. After a short drive, we make it here to this parking lot by the tower, where we watch as the drunk guy steps out and proceeds to fall over. Like, genuinely, this is what sipping on Carpa does to a mother. Like, actually, guys, do not turn out like this. Got his head clipping through the walls and shit. Like, bro, come on. Next, we got... Yeah, like I mentioned before, I did learn how to mess with the models a bit, leading to some unpleasant sights. But don't worry, the reason why we are focused on this businessman is because we are actually going to see where he ends up going when we drop him off. Once he gets out, he makes his way to the stairs, then heads down them, and then stops about halfway. Following the path, you notice that it actually leads to nowhere, since this is out of view and out of bounds at this point. This also happens to be when we get our first glimpse of the Skinfreak, who you can see spawn in right here at the driver's side. He spawns in as you watch the businessman go down the stairs and patiently stands there until you turn around to look at him. I decided to remove the taxi so we can have a better look at him while he's still in his killer outfit. He's not really the most pleasant thing to look at, reminding me of that really old creepy kids show called Mr. Meaty. Funnily enough, the Skinfreak actually throws himself to the side to get out of view, leading to this very glitchy stance. You can see how his model was set to an almost 90-degree angle. I always thought he just slid away really fast, but this works too. Next we have the old grandma who has no business being out here this late. I guess this is where I should also show you the top of the bowling place after we drop her off. I never really took the opportunity to look up, and I find it cool how the noises that I thought to be emitting from inside are actually being made right here on top of the building itself. Second to last, we have Gloria's holes, where we make a quick stop to use the restroom. Gloria does mention that she may have seen someone by our car, but getting closer and looking inside confirms that the Skinfreak is neither in the backseat or in the trunk. Finally, we pick up Belle, the actual true main character of this game, where we have a small conversation, then drop her off in front of the place that she's staying at. We do end up spending the rest of the game with her, but it's still cool to look at from third person and in the eyes from someone else in the Skinfreak universe. After dropping off Belle, we get a call from our boss stating for us to come back to the garage. When we get there, things pretty much are off immediately, with our taxi sounding the alarm randomly. Once entering the room to drop off our keys, the Skinfreak spawns right behind this door, waiting to burst in and take our cheeks. I was able to play his run animation, which made me realize just how weird it looked. Like, there's actually no reason to be running like this. No combat advantage or anything. Bro's really skipping to his kill for the love of the game. Taking a closer look at him, you begin to notice stitching along his feet and legs. I also got into the head of the Skinfreak to look inside. I know this doesn't seem important now, but take note of how this initial model handles the head and neck portion, since it will change. So as you might already know, 80% of this game is spent right here in this environment where the office takes place. Before entering, we are given a small look at the outside area, which holds a parking lot, a road, gas station, and some cornfields. Now, as for the gas station, it does have its own section at some point in the game, but we will handle that when the time comes. Unsurprisingly, the actual office and its many floors are not actually within the building, but rather off to the side, out floating in the void. This allows developers to have the freedom and space to create their desired interiors without the hassle and tediousness of having to be bound to the physical building. Something that I wanted to point out is that all of the props and walls for each floor are actually despawned until you load onto that floor, which you can see me do here. To be honest, a lot of the things you see in the game are pretty much all there is within the files. Although there might not be anything I was able to spawn in that is new, I thought it'd be a good idea to still go through each floor to see what's going on. The first person we meet here at the offices is none other than the security guard Steve. Now, despite his entire job consisting of just having to sit at the front desk, he's almost never here. But if you played the game, then you know why. Next, I had to take a look at Miss Apple, and what I saw is that of nightmares. Mrs. Apple's model extends way out of bounds and is frighteningly long. The floor right above is quite simple as well, only holding the key that we need, and of course, Sir Charles. This dude loves to boast about how great he is at cleaning the floors, but when you're not there, he just slacks off and analyzes the same spot over and over. The floor above holds the janitor room, which has some pretty useful stuff like this rod in order to retrieve a coin and a backpack for extra inventory space. This is also where the trash chute is, and what I found cool is that the actual trash is not actually inside of this one, but rather off to the side in a duplicated one right out of view. The next floor I wanted to go over is this one with all the water and the pond. The only cool thing I found here is the face statues you see mounted on the wall are actually fully modeled bodies that were hidden behind a wall. I love seeing stuff like this because it shows you how creative developers are when it comes to trying to produce a certain look. Parts or portions of models being repurposed like that is actually extremely common within video games. The floor that holds our offices is pretty boring and don't have much to show apart from Fatty Cake's room, where I found some Sir L. Anns. Finally, we have the 7th floor, and here is the corpse of someone. I'm not sure who. Okay, so for this portion of the video, I decided it was time to look at some of the events that happened in the game. First, I wanted to go back all the way to the basement to see if I could spawn in Lucy, and fortunately, I was able to. Although we are expected to save her in a quick manner before she falls into the tub of acid, it seems that her feet are already soaked within the barrel. I was also able to spawn in the Skinfreak as well, and what's really interesting is that this is actually a different version of him. By taking the camera and getting close to him, you can actually see Steve inside the suit. Now I hope everyone who watches this is watching because you've already seen the ending and stuff, but it's really cool that there are two different models that change towards the end of the game. Steve was definitely not inside of the suit at the beginning of the game, which I showed you guys, which is why I told you to take note of that. Next, we have the scene where Harold gets butchered by the Skinfreak. Again, you can see how his model has a visible gap at the back of the neck where you can see Steve inside. You never really get to see the Skinfreak from the back, so it's touches like this that add to the depth of the game. He's holding what appears to be a chainsaw made by Milwaukee Gang, which I was able to turn comedically huge. The part of the game where you get to interact with the Skinfreak the most is right here in this office space, where you have to press all of the red buttons in order to open the exit door and escape. There really isn't much else to say, I'm just gonna let you watch him roam around for a bit. Here is where all of the red buttons are. Surprisingly, the Skinfreak does not have a randomized path, and it's pretty fixed, which is very unlike other puppet combo villains we have covered. Finally, before we get to the boss and the ending sections, I wanted to come back to the gas station. As you can see, the gas station's interior takes place way down here, similar to where the office interiors are. Apart from this delicious looking hot dog and this pig head, there is the creepy guy that shows up, which I wanted to cover. I was able to spawn him in, and you can see him in his walk animation right outside of the door. It seems he was always holding the screwdriver the entire time, even prior to confronting us. Although you may think he drops this very screwdriver for us to pick up when he is dragged away, the real screwdriver that we use is actually placed right out of bounds here and rolls right in on cue. Of course, exiting through the window does not actually lead to outside, as the real outdoors of the gas station is way up here. So we finally make it to the end of the game, where we have to face off against the Skinfreak as we attempt to get up onto the roof. Since this part of the game is so dark, the first thing I did was add light, because there's something cool I need to show you. Due to how this part plays, I thought that the Skinfreak merely spawns in when you're near a certain zone, but he's actually already waiting by the wall, ready to break it down when you get close. I was not expecting to see him like this. I thought it was more of like a driller killer situation where he spawns and despawns, but nope, Skinfreak is on the map at all times. Even more interesting is that there are actually more copies of him, 2 more to be exact, which all do the same thing of waiting behind a breakable wall until you get close. Finally, before we head to the rooftops, I wanted to show you all that all of the items we've collected are all placed out of bounds. This is something I've seen many times with these games, and this one is no exception. At last, my friends, we finally make it to the very last section where we confront the Skinfreak, leading to an epic conclusion. Not much to show here other than his rightful deserved death. At least, I think he's dead. When we finally receive medical care, we are placed on a hospital bed with this creepy old lady nurse. At some point, the mask of the Skinfreak spawns in and floats at this doorway on some Akamoto shit. The doctor appears to have no face until he turns around, leading to this final jump scare. So this concludes the Skinfreak barrier breach. Developer Jordan King, aka Black Eyed Priest, really put out a banger with this one, grabbing elements from their other games such as Bloodwash and Ding Dong Dead and combining them to make a unique low-poly horror experience. If you like what you saw, consider purchasing the game yourself since it's genuinely very solid and worth your time. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Keep drinking water and keeping yourself safe. I'll see you all later.